Hello and welcome to New Central Studios. I am Felicity Ezewike here with the stories making headlines beyond the continent. A drone attack on a U.S. base in Jordan that killed 3 American soldiers, with President Joe Biden blaming Iran-backed militants for the first U.S. military deaths in the region since the Israel-Hamas conflict began. Iran said it had nothing to do with the attack and denied U.S. and British accusations that it supported militant groups responsible for the strike on the remote frontier base in Jordan's northeast near the border with Iraq and Syria. He pledged to hold all those responsible to account at a time and in a manner of its choosing. Biden later held a moment of silence at a South Carolina church banquet hall for the U.S. troops killed in the attack, vowing to respond. Joining us now to give some insight is our international correspondent, Afia Hagen. Afia, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. We know some details about the attack. What more can you tell us?
Well, this attack took place on this U.S. Base, as you said, in the northeast of Jordan, near the border with Syria. And this is an area that was known as Tower 22. Now, this was a base that wasn't included on any maps. It was very secretive. And of course, the US have been forced to reveal its location today. It was established in 2016. Now, it's believed that the drone struck the living quarters of this base. 3 US military personnel were killed. 34 others are being checked over for injuries. Now, this is the first deaths on a US airbase since the October 7th attacks by Hamas in Gaza, by Hamas in Israel. Now, you have had 2 other US troops who went missing in an operation. They were trying to recover Iranian-bound weapons, and they've gone missing and declared dead. But this is the first US troops actually killed in combat by this drone strike, which they say was backed by Iran.
What has been Iran's response to these attacks?
Well, Iran have said that these accusations are absolutely baseless. A foreign ministry spokesperson by the name of Nasser Kanani said this morning that it was baseless, that people are saying that these attacks have come from Iran. He said that Iran was not involved in the decision-making of resistance groups and how they choose to defend Palestinians or their own countries. And Tehran was referring there to networks and proxies of allied groups in the region of the axis of resistance. So basically, they are saying, look, it's nothing to do with us, but we cannot control what people will do to defend Palestine and their groups. Now, Joe Biden has said the attack was carried out by radical Iran-backed militant groups. And a spokesperson of Iran's UN mission said that they had nothing to do with the attacks in question.
How does this escalate tensions in the region?
Well, of course, this is a region which is already descending into violence because of what is happening in Israel and Palestine. It was almost inevitable at some point that US troops would be killed, or UK troops, or any other foreign actors who have troops in the region, that they would come under attack in this way. Of course, we have the Houthis being attacked in Yemen, and there have been attacks on troops in Syria and Iraq as well, about 150, but only these resulting in deaths. Look, Iran are saying that they are not involved, but it doesn't mean that this doesn't heighten the rhetoric. It doesn't mean that this kind of stokes the tensions. And what people have to be very careful of now is the language that is used on either side. You know, we have the US saying that they will retaliate at time and place of their choosing. We have Iran saying that it's nothing to do with us, but all this does is stoke the tensions and also ups the violence. If you're now having foreign actors having their troops killed, they are more likely to want to escalate and have more intervention in the region.
Afia, thank you very much for bringing us the updates. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has held a bilateral meeting with NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg at the Pentagon Austin is back at work after hospitalization for complications from cancer treatment that he initially failed to disclose to the president and Congress. The 70-year-old career soldier initially underwent minor surgery to treat prostate cancer on December 22, returning home the following day, but was readmitted due to complications including nausea and severe pain on January 1.
The President and I will not tolerate attack on U.S. forces, and we will take all necessary actions to defend the U.S. and our troops. At this important time, I'm glad to be back at the Pentagon. I feel good and am recovering well, but still recovering. NATO is the most powerful and successful alliance in history, and we're going to keep it that way.
We also see growing competition with China. Beijing is not an adversary, but China is conducting a major military build-up, increasingly aligning with Russia and bullying its neighbors, not least Taiwan. And all of this impacts our security.
Britain's head of state, King Charles III, has left a private London hospital on Monday, 3 days after undergoing a procedure for an enlarged prostate. The 75-year-old monarch, dressed in a suit and a black overcoat, waved to crowds as he and Queen Camilla emerged from the clinic and climbed into a waiting car. Buckingham Palace said Charles, who spent 3 nights at the hospital, had rescheduled his forthcoming engagements while he recuperates. A palace announced on January 17 that he had been diagnosed with the condition. Charles says he publicized his own case to raise awareness about the condition, which is common in men aged over 50 and affects urination. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has announced on Monday that the United Kingdom will introduce legislation to ban disposable e-cigarettes in order to tackle a rising case of youth vaping. The UK will introduce legislation to ban disposable e-cigarettes in order to tackle the rise. While visiting a school in Darlington, northeast England, Sunak said it is right to take strong action to stamp this out, banning it, taking powers to go after the flavors, the appearance, the packaging where vapes are displayed in stores. The government cited recent figures showing the proportion of vapers under the age of 18 who use disposables has increased almost 9-fold in the last 2 years.
You talk to any parent or teacher, as I've been doing here at this school in Darlington this morning, they'll talk to you about the worrying rise in vaping amongst children. Now, children shouldn't be vaping. We don't want them to get addicted. We still don't understand the full long-term health impacts of vaping. So it's right that we take strong action to stamp this out. That's what we're doing. Banning disposable vapes, taking powers to go after the flavors, the appearance, the packaging where vapes are displayed in stores, but also improving enforcement, making it easier to levy on-the-spot fines at retailers who shouldn't be selling to kids. Taken together, it's a strong set of measures so we can improve our children's health. It's the right long-term thing for the country. Well, it's important that we maintain vapes for adult smokers who want to stop, because for those people, it's obviously preferable that they vape rather than smoke. That's why actually we're pioneering the Swap to Stop campaign. 1 million people are being provided with kits to help them through the NHS, and actually we're one of the first countries in the world to do a program like that. And what's clear is it's disposable vapes that are behind the very worrying rise in children's vaping. Children disproportionately and overwhelmingly use disposable vapes. So I think we've got the balance right. Supporting adult smokers to stop smoking with our vape kits and dedicated support for them, but targeting all the things that make sure that children shouldn't have access to vapes. And if we raise the smoking age incrementally, that will mean that people stop smoking, and the vast majority of people take up smoking when they're young. If we can stop that start, then we'll be well on the way to making sure we have the first smoke-free generation in our country.
Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Belarusian counterpart Alexander Lukashenko are presiding over Council of the Union State between their countries. President Vladimir Putin praised the bilateral cooperation between their countries despite unprecedented external pressure, while President Lukashenko said the main task was to intensify cooperation in the field of import substitution. Since the start of Moscow's offensive against Ukraine, Russia and Belarus have been subjected to repeated rounds of Western sanctions.
Важно, что Россия и Беларусь в условиях беспрецедентного внешнего давления плотно взаимодействуют на мировой арене, неизбежно и неизменно оказывают друг другу подлинно союзническую взаимную поддержку. Подходы наших стран к актуальным глобальным и региональным проблемам совпадают или во многом близки.
Важно усилить международное позиционирование нашего союза, как это мы пытаемся сделать с Евразийским экономическим союзом. Главная задача в промышленной сфере – активизация сотрудничества в сфере импортозамещения. Здесь очень много сделано, мы многое поняли, того, что не понимали еще 2 года тому назад. Нас не удалось поставить на колени, наоборот, мы мобилизовались и, я говорю, сделали немало. Наше заседание, как здесь президент сказал, проходит в преддверии важных внутриполитических событий. Впервые в истории Беларуси 25 февраля этого года состоится единый день голосования. По примеру России мы также установили.
Ukraine's foreign minister on Monday thanked Hungary for constructive talks ahead of a European summit where Kyiv hopes Hungary's Viktor Orban will lift a veto on a multi-billion euro EU aid package. Relations between the two neighbors have been strained over the past few years and was further aggravated when Prime Minister Orban in December vetoed 50 billion euros in EU aid for Kyiv. In an effort to mend ties and find solutions to their differences, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky suggested a direct meeting. Monday's talks between Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó and Ukraine's top diplomat Dmytro Kuleba around the city of Uzhhorod in western Ukraine is intended to lay the groundwork. The Director General of Greenpeace France has called on the government not to fight the wrong battle by attacking environmental standards. Around 30 France Greenpeace activists have unfurled a banner in the early hours of the morning in support of farmers. They lit smoke bombs on the Concorde Bridge in Paris before being calmly evacuated by police officers.
Que les organisations environnementales sont aussi en soutien aux agriculteurs, qu'on comprend la colère des agriculteurs, mais qu'il ne faut pas se tromper de responsable, que ce n'est pas la faute aux normes environnementales si l'agriculture est dans cette situation-là. C'est avant tout la faute aux marges que dégage la grande distribution, à l'agro-industrie, aux traités de libre-échange qui ont plongé les agriculteurs depuis des décennies dans cette situation-là. Les agriculteurs ont besoin de sols en bonne santé, ils ont besoin d'une eau propre et accessible, ils ont besoin d'un climat qui ne se dérègle pas trop vite, donc ils ont besoin de ces protections-là. Et on est là pour expliquer ça aussi et envoyer un message au gouvernement pour qu'il ne se trompe pas de combat.
Georgia Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili has announced his resignation and has stated he would lead the ruling party ahead of the October parliamentary elections. The conservative-leaning 41-year-old had been prime minister since February 2021. In a televised briefing, he said he was leaving the post of prime minister, adding that he would become the Georgian Dream chairman after the party congress on February 1. His announcement comes a month after the political comeback of his close ally and powerful oligarch, Bidzina Ivanishvili. In the meantime, officials say Garibashvili is to be replaced by the current party chief.
საზოგადოებას ვაცნობ გადაწყვეტილების შესახებ, რომელზეც გუნდთან ერთად ვიმსჯელეთ. დღეს მე ვტოვებ პრემიერ-მინისტრის თანამდებობას. ახლა ახალი ამოცანების წინაშე ვდგავართ. შემოდგომაზე ახალ პარლამენტს ავირჩევთ და ქართული ოცნება უნდა მოემზადოს არჩევნების დამაჯერებლად მოსაგებად. რათა გავაგრძელოთ წინსვლა სხვა უფრო დიდი მიზნების მისაღწევად. ამ პოლიტიკური რეალობიდან გამომდინარე, პოლიტსაბჭოსგან მივიღე შეთავაზება დავიკავო პარტიის თავმჯდომარის თანამდებობა. პრემიერ-მინისტრად მუშაობისას გაწეული უდიდესი მხარდაჭერისთვის მადლობას უხდი ჩვენი პარტიის დამფუძნებელს და საპატიო თავმჯდომარეს.
The EU is demanding an urgent audit of the UN Palestinian Refugee Agency, UNRWA, and SAID. It is reviewing funding following Israeli allegations that some staff participated in Hamas' October 7 attack. The Commission spokesman, Eric Mame, on Monday told newsmen that the audit must be led by European Commission-appointed experts and conducted alongside a UN investigation into the claims. Among the major donors to UNRWA is the European Union. In a statement, the Commission said the EU executive will determine upcoming funding decisions for UNRWA in light of the very serious allegations made on January 24 relating to its involvement of UNRWA staff in the heinous October 7 attacks.
Extremely serious allegations against staff working for UNRWA. And it is absolutely obvious that these allegations need to be investigated seriously and without delay.
To the Middle East now, where Iran's foreign minister was in Pakistan for talks on Monday as both nations sought to ease tensions after deadly cross-border strikes threatened diplomatic relations. Hussein Amir Abdullahian, Iran's foreign minister, arrived in Islamabad late Sunday, saying he would hold talks with his local counterpart, Jalil Abbas Jalili, and Prime Minister Anwar ul-Haq on Saturday. Gunmen in southeastern Iran's Sistan Baluchistan province killed 9 people, with Islamabad's ambassador identifying them as Pakistanis. The two countries, however, since announced that they have decided to de-escalate and resume diplomatic missions, with the two ambassadors returning to their posts. Iran has executed 4 men convicted of planning sabotage and alleged links with Israel Mossad Secret Service. The men were convicted of planning to target a factory in 2022 belonging to Iran's defense ministry and involved in missile and defense equipment in the central city of Isfahan. The operation was allegedly engineered by Mossad, and the 4 were trained by the Israeli agency in an African country before entering Iran. The 4 were identified as Iranian nationals: Mohammad Faramazi, Mohsin Mazloum, Wafa Azaba, and Pegman Fatahi. The execution was carried out after the country's Supreme Court upheld their death sentences handed down by another court in September. In Asia, we understand Thailand and China have signed off on a visa waiver agreement as talks between the two foreign ministers occur. They look forward to boosting ties between both countries. The deal, inked by Thai Foreign Minister Phamprey Bahida Nukara and his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi, allows people from the two nations to travel to one another's country visa-free from March 1. Thai officials hope the deal will encourage more Chinese to come and boost the kingdom's vital tourism sector, which has struggled to bounce back from the pandemic. Wang welcomed the agreement, saying Thai and Chinese people are one family. Malaysia's former finance minister, Diam Zainuddin, has been charged with failing to disclose luxury cars, properties and other assets, part of a corruption crackdown triggered by revelations of tax evasion by the rich. 85-year-old Diam served as finance minister twice between 1984 and 2001 and has close ties to a political rival of Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim. Diam arrived in court on Monday in a wheelchair with his family and stands accused of failing to declare assets, including luxury cars and premium condominiums, after being ordered to do so by the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission. Former President of the Philippines, Rodrigo Duterte, has accused the current president, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., of using drugs and calls out proposals to amend the constitution. Thousands of supporters of Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos and his predecessor gathered for rival rallies on Sunday, putting on a public display of a deepening rift between the powerful clans. In the nearly 2 years since Marcos swept the victory with the help of his vice presidential running mate, the former president's daughter, their so-called unity team has fractured.
Nung ako'y mayor, pinakitaan ako ng evidence ng PDEA. Doon sa listahan, nandoon yung pangalan mo. Ayaw kong sabihin yan. Kasi magkaibigan tayo, kung hindi magkaibigan, magkakilala. Ikaw pumapasok kayo ng alanganin. Mr. President, baka susunod ka sa dinaanan ng tatay mo. Reject. Protect the Constitution. I am calling now the armed forces and the PNP. Protect the Constitution. Trabaho ninyo yan. Huwag ninyong kalimutan. Kami, dapat, you should worry about the nation. The millions of Filipinos. Huwag kayong mag-isip lang ng isang pamilya.
And that's all we have for you on Beyond the Continent at this hour. We thank you very much for watching. Just stay tuned for more programming here at News Central.